ask a creative person, do you want your workflow to move at the same speed it always has, or are you interested in it speeding up? It's a pretty easy answer. Our time spent in pre-production, production, and post-production is valuable, and I'm always looking for ways to speed up the boring parts so I can focus on the creative stuff. So what is the fastest way to shoot video and deliver it to your editor? Well, check this out. I'm gonna do this in real time. The camera that I'm shooting with here is tied to a pressed-in follow focus, so I can control the start and stop recording remotely. And I want you to see that there's no tricks here, so I have my iPhone shooting a second camera, so when the main one stops, we can still see what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna cut the main camera in 3, 2, 1, cut. All right, now to the iPhone. What we're gonna do is we're gonna open up my computer and go into Resolve. Inside Resolve, we see a directory here called Frame.io. Inside of that, I see a directory called Strada Space. In there, I see C2C, which stands for Camera to Cloud. I can open up C2C and go to a folder called Cloud Devices. When I open up Cloud Devices, I see a bunch of folders with dates, and those are just dates that we're shooting. Today is February 18th. So a quick refresh of that, I can see video, and then I see a folder called ACAM, and that quick, we see a folder here with a file, and oh, I can drag that in here. Oh, I can go to my timeline. Oh, I can put this in here. And that quickly, we actually have a file that we just shot a moment ago already inside Resolve, and I can play it and prove it to you. Here we go, let's take a look. Okay, I'm gonna cut the main camera in 3, 2, 1, cut. All right, do you believe me? Now we did it that quick. So now I gotta re-roll this camera so we could do the rest of the episode. Okay, so how did we get an 8K camera file to an editor so quickly? Well, before we do that, we need to talk about the process of reviewing and delivering footage while on a production. And you know what? The process of review and approval has always troubled me. This is most likely because, well, I'm not a patient person. When I want to review something captured and I can't think of a good reason why I should have to wait, I get really frustrated. And I don't like having to rely on someone else to play back what I need to review. When I'm in the creative zone, any delay, especially waiting for downloading or transferring or syncing and rendering, can take me out of the zone. And I think most of us have become tolerant of creative delays, like reviewing footage on a set and waiting for an editor to receive drives before they can start cutting. Now, in the past, when most high-end productions were shot on film, it made sense that there was a delay between exposing a negative, shipping it to the lab, processing it, making a print, and then transferring that to videotape or even a DVD to watch. But the sad fact is, after digital cameras became the dominant recording medium, most of us still have to wait the same amount of time before we can properly review it. Like film, digital files still need to be synced, colored, converted, and then uploaded to share with a team of collaborators. Sure, you can hit play on a digital camera to review something critical right on set, but there are several problems with that. First, and worst of all, you have to stop everything else. Second, it's hard to navigate and find takes on a camera menu, especially ones that were shot several hours before. Third, it might not display the same color profile that you were monitoring, or could even be in log. Fourth, it doesn't contain the audio if you're recording sound separately. Fifth, it's difficult to control playback on a camera. Scrub, pause, and rewind are all clunky, especially if you're not operating it yourself. And last, you can only see one camera at a time. The point is, whenever it's convenient to watch, it must contain all the pieces required for a proper review. And there are so many pieces to this puzzle, it takes a lot of time to assemble them. Or does it? Well, a few years ago, I worked with an amazing team at a great company called Frame.io, and I had the pleasure of leading that team to build one of the first camera-to-cloud technologies in the world. We launched this breakthrough technology in 2021, and even though I no longer work at Frame.io, I'm a proud user of the product, and camera-to-cloud remains critical as part of my productions because it's the fastest way to keep me and my entire team moving. But today, I'm gonna show you the latest upgrade that I used in a recent production that makes direct camera to cloud delivery even faster than before. And it all starts with the Teradek Serv 4K. Teradek is a company that makes all sorts of hardware encoders and transmitters. We originally made camera to cloud with the Teradek Cube 655, which still works great and I use it often. But there were upgrades to the newer Serv 4K model, which added 4K 10-bit H.265 recording, but the most recent updates can be used on a device called a Prism Mobile, which contains built-in slots for SIM cards. And check me, this little box is pretty much guaranteed to speed up almost everything about your workflow. So here's how it works. You can always put any of these devices on a table and run a cable from the camera. But for the most mobility, you can also adopt Serv or Prism with a V-mount or gold mount plate so it can connect directly onto the camera. Since these mounts pass power, you can mount the Teradek, then click in your battery, and the battery will power both the prism and the camera. You can also power it with a 12-volt 2-pin LEMO cable. Next, you connect the camera with a BNC cable and can still loop out a clean or dirty signal from the SDI pass-through port. Now using the smartphone app, I can connect to the Teradek and navigate to the input encoding menu. From there, I can select HEVC as my record codec, choose any bitrate up to 45 megabits, but from personal experience, 6 megabits is ample for rough cuts and 30 is excellent for a great web deliverable. I can set my color sampling up to 422 and capture in 10-bit color, which gets me a really good image. In my recording settings, I can set Teradek to automatically record and stop when I press the record button on the camera. So I select the auto record to on camera event, and then I have a series of choices for each of the different cameras supported. Since I'm using a Panavision DXL, it shares the RED protocol. So I'll select RED, but support for Canon, Sony, and Arri are also available. So the side UI shows that I'm currently getting a UHD signal, and this is really cool. For people that use external wireless focus, these hand units send a wireless pulse to trigger the camera to record, and that trigger is passed through to the Teradek. This means a remote button press on my follow focus will automatically trigger both the camera and the Teradek to begin recording. The proxy files being recorded here are saved to an onboard SD card, which means I can eject the card, mount it to my computer, and import the 4K HEVC proxy files into my NLE to review. What makes this different from a live stream is that you can see we also get reliable clip names and time code of the files, so we have the ability to relink these proxies back to the original camera files later if we want. Now, having a proxy version of a RAW file is great. I could easily take that SD card and quickly upload the files to Dropbox or Google Drive or Frame.io since they're very small and they look really good. But that's still a bit cumbersome because I have to stop recording, take out the SD card, upload to my laptop. So wouldn't it be great if you could just have these files upload themselves to the editor? Well, that's what we built at Frame.io, and I'll show you how easy it is to set this up. I go back to the Teradek Serv smartphone app, and I can see a choice for cloud services. Wow, I remember when Frame.io was the only option. It's getting crowded in here, but that's good because it means we've pioneered something that's growing, and today there are more choices for users. Now, we built the Frame.io version to be easier than, say, syncing your phone to a Tesla. So watch this. I'm gonna choose Frame.io, and the Teradek automatically generates a random 6-digit code, which is good for 120 seconds. Then I go to my Frame.io account, and as long as you have a paid account, this feature is free with your subscription. I can go to any project and select the C2C Connections tab. At the bottom, I see Add New Device, and it provides me a space to enter the 6-digit code. This shows me the device, which is connecting through my user, and my user is passing the permissions to a particular project. Once I hit Connect, I'm able to select Finish, and I'm done. Now I see a green dot that indicates Frame.io recognizes the Teradek is online. So every time I roll a take, the file will automatically upload itself to Frame.io. Now this is already really speeding up my workflow, but there's always a problem with camera to cloud that's not going away: bandwidth. See, when you shoot a take, the Teradek will capture that data to the SD card, and then when you hit cut, it uploads the file. Now, we already said that we can control the file size, so if you have limited bandwidth, you can adjust the file size to 2 or 3 megabits per second, but that still can be problematic, especially when you factor in how long your takes are. So let's do a little math. If your internet speed has an upload bandwidth of 3 megabits per second, you might want to set your Teradek to 3 megabits per second. That way, you can upload takes in real time. In other words, if you shoot a take that's 2 minutes long, it will take roughly 2 minutes to upload before you can watch it. Now that's still pretty fast since this is a background task, and you can keep working with these clips uploading in the background even while you're rolling. But the real problem is with a long clip, like a concert or an interview. Again, if we have the same 3 megabit per second upload speed, a 1-hour interview means you have to wait an entire hour to upload the file after you cut. Now that's a long time for a camera to sit there and upload after a long record. And that's where the newest update from Teradek called Real-Time Uploads comes into play. Teradek can now upload the file as it's being recorded. Again, this isn't a live stream. A live stream doesn't contain the source clip name or time code that's necessary to match the RAW file, so that's a different process. We're talking about an actual proxy file that matches the camera original and is still triggered to start and stop by the camera. In other words, if our bitrate and bandwidth match, you can shoot for as long as you want, and when you hit cut, the clip is ready to play back in less than 10 seconds, anywhere in the world. So let's try it. First, I will do a quick audit of the internet bandwidth. I use the speed test app and I sample what bandwidth is available. This tells me how many megabits per second of upload bandwidth I have. So let's say it's around 40. If that's the case, I determine how many cameras I have to record. And at this shoot, we had 2 cameras. So I need to divide the available bandwidth in half. I also want to give myself a little bit of padding for hiccups in the packets. So I'll set my Teradek to 15 megabits per second. With 2 cameras going, I'm uploading 30 megabits per second, which is a little less than the 40 I have available, and now I'm able to shoot and upload in real time. Regardless of how long my takes are, I will be able to watch them and even edit them in as little as 10 seconds after cutting. As long as I have that sustained bandwidth available, I've created a real-time upload proxy of all my media while I'm shooting, and it's 100% automatic. In fact, if I cut this interview again right now, let me get the Preston. I'm gonna cut in 3, 2, 1, cut. Okay, now over to iPhone. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into Frame.io and take a look at the status of the file that we just shot. So let's go over into Frame.io, we'll go into our folder and look right there that quickly, there is the new asset. It's right there. But if you notice it says it's processing, and what that means is it's transcoding. And what that is doing is it's making a high, medium, and low quality file in the background. But while that process is happening, you can still scrub the file, I could comment on the file, I can watch the file, I could download and start editing. But this process requires us to finish before we can go into Resolve. So let's tab over into Resolve and take a look at that. Well, now in Resolve, we go back to our directory. We see our folders with our dates on it. We can toggle that down. We can do a quick little refresh. And in that refresh, we go on to video. Then we see ACAM. And inside ACAM, look, there's the 2 files. The first one and the second one, both available that quickly. So now I'm going to drag that into my media pool. And once in my media pool, I can open that up into a timeline, drag that in. And this file is long. This is a 20-minute or so file. I can scrub it and I can start editing it. I can start working with it. This is so fast. Even though it's a 20-minute file, the real-time access makes it so that we don't have to ship a hard drive in order to get something to happen this quickly. Now we're gonna go back to our main camera. Okay, rolling again. Gotta keep rolling because we keep cutting. Now the same camera to cloud technology is available for audio using a Sound Devices 888. So when you record a multi-track audio file, it automatically uploads the uncompressed wave into Frame.io. This is already a great way to enhance your workflow, but Strada takes this workflow even further. Every time we cut, the original audio and HEVC proxy files are fed to the Frame.io cloud, but Strada can read those files directly without moving them. And now we can batch select picture and sound with a right click, and we can automatically sync the entire batch, audio and video, using timecode, and now every take is synced with multicam in the cloud. The director of this project, Floriane Anderson, used this exact workflow to review on set and communicate with the actors.
Asking your actors to go back to Video Village and show them the take when they're in the middle of maybe a very emotional scene. I love the way that with Strada, I can take my iPad and go to them and show what it looks like.
When Flo came over and showed us the shots, I was like, wow, I can actually see if I'm doing something that I wouldn't like to do.
I think it's important for actors to have a sense of how they're perceived, because there's a different feeling from how you're perceived through the camera. So as a director, it's great to be able to show them exactly how it conveys through the lens, and then they can course correct accordingly without words.
Everyone works a little bit differently. For me, I prefer transparency and access with my crew and collaborators. You may be different, but your job as a director or creative director or photographer is to align all of those people to one vision, yours. For some people, they're really good at that. Others need help, and workflows like the one we just explored is one way to massively increase creative control by ensuring whoever needs access to picture and sound has it, especially you. Camera to cloud pushes boundaries, and it will become the standard pretty soon. In 7 years, cameras probably won't even have removable cards anymore. And since I love pushing boundaries of workflow, that got me thinking, what kind of workflow do you think we'd have to create to connect something like this with something like this?